Hello, beautiful. Welcome to the She's Sacral podcast. I'm your host, Lindsay Christian. Let's go ahead and get started with today's episode. Hello, sacral beauties. Welcome to the She's Sacral podcast, where we focus on burnout recovery through the power of sacred pleasure. Today, we're diving in and we're talking more about the stages of burnout. So, we're going to move to stage 2 of burnout. If you haven't listened to stage 1, where we talk about the need to prove yourself, definitely tune into that as well. So today we're going to dive in and talk more about when we start working harder, when productivity becomes a trap. We've already established that we're trying to prove ourselves, and then this is when burnout stops whispering and it starts yelling. And this stage can look like success on the outside, but your body is begging for a break. So some common signs of this stage is that you might begin to say yes, even when you're exhausted, skipping meals or eating while working, not even taking the time to slow down and enjoy your food. You're never truly clocking out. Mentally or physically, you're always working. You start to depend on caffeine and sugar or stimulants just to get through your work or your daily life. And so I want to dive in and talk about when we're in this stage, we are really neglecting our needs, right? We're working harder, but we're neglecting our needs in the process. And we're going to neglect our needs even more so in the next episode afterwards. So be sure to dive in and tune into that where it becomes even more apparent. But we start that process in this stage. And so we have that little inner dialogue in our mind to say, it's not enough. You need to do more. No one's going to buy this. You need to give more. No one's going to take you seriously. No one's going to accept you. No one's going to fill in the blank. You need to show more. You need to outdo. You need to keep up. There's that little voice that's in there that is telling you that. Where is that coming from? And so it takes a little bit to really figure that out. But the root cause of all of this is the productivity wound. The core belief is that if I'm not producing, then I am not valuable. And this can come from internalized hustle culture, where we begin to equate our worth with what we put out into the world or what we give or what we provide. It can come from a fear of laziness or being irrelevant or being a failure. It can be related to having guilt for doing nothing, even when your body needs it. And it can also be connected to self-abandonment through achievement. And so rest is no longer restful when you believe it makes you fall behind. I know so many people like this, where it's like, oh, I'll sleep when I'm dead. Have you ever said that or heard someone say that? Or it's like, I don't need sleep. I just sleep maybe like 3-4 hours. I'm good. Your body 100% needs rest. It needs sleep. And I think a lot of times we just haven't been properly educated on truly how productive rest is. That this is a time that your body heals. And it's not just sleep. It's not just sleep. It's really rest. It's mental rest. It's physical rest. You can lay down in the bed or lay down on the couch, but your body can be in a state of overdrive. Your mind can be constantly overthinking and overworking and overanalyzing. And I know what that feels like. It is hard to shut it off when you've created this as a consistent pattern. And so we have to get ourselves in a space where we can begin to feel safer about the way that we view rest. When we can say, it's okay, I can relax and I will still be successful. I can rest and I can still receive. But if we don't believe that, we're never going to make that change. And there has to be something almost proven to us to say that, hey, when I do less work, I actually make more money. What? Or, hey, when I actually give less to people, they actually value me more. Huh. But until that experience has happened for you, you won't believe that. I didn't believe it. I just kept having this nagging belief that I am not giving enough. There must be a reason why people are not buying or people are not giving back to me. It must be because I'm not doing enough. I'm not giving enough. It's not attractive enough. It's not pretty enough. It's not polished enough. And meanwhile, I would grow so frustrated because I'd see others with giving less quality, less of everything, and yet they were receiving more. And it would just drive me absolutely bananas because I couldn't understand, what am I doing wrong? What is it? Am I cursed? Do I just have to continuously just keep putting out a whole bunch? Let's take this podcast, for example. It's like I would have to record and produce and create 1,000 episodes just to get the same kind of recognition or views or listens as someone who has 10 episodes with less quality. And I couldn't figure out why that was happening to me. It genuinely felt like a curse. When we carry this wound, there is so much that comes with that life continues to try to teach us the resistance to allow for us to heal. You see how you're feeling right now? You see how you're feeling burned out in this moment when you're overgiving? You see how that doesn't feel good? Let's change the way that we work. Try to slow down and give less, but give more things that resonate with a particular person. Or give more that actually resonates and provides value very strategically to who you want to receive what you have to offer. And that will make a big difference. So let's talk about how stage 2 can impact your hormonal and nervous system. Now, at this point, our cortisol levels start to remain chronically high, and this can lead into what's called adrenal fatigue, where you can sleep as much as you want to, you can try to rest, but you wake up feeling tired no matter what. Maybe you only have 1 to 2 hours of energy for the entire day, no matter what you do. That's what happens when the cortisol becomes chronically high. And so when your cortisol is high, in women, our hormone progesterone, which is responsible for our fertility, the first weeks of life, which is responsible for the second half of our cycles, which happens after ovulation, progesterone starts to decline. And when progesterone is declining, this can create poor sleep, poor mood regulation. It can create painful periods and PMS and PMDD. You know, we've been taught that PMS and PMDD are somewhat normal, that every woman just going to get angry and moody and depressed for 2 weeks out of the month. And that is so untrue. It's because we have so much cortisol built up, or we're not eating the right diet, that it depletes these hormones that our body is using to complete our cycles. And it's also very important for women who have PCOS. This is part of what creates PCOS, is having that chronic high cortisol, which leads to higher levels of insulin, which leads to more sugar cravings, which leads to there being pauses in ovulation and inovulatory cycles where your cycles don't have ovulation, and then it creates heavy bleeding. It creates so many problems when it comes to our cycles when our cortisol is extremely high. Your sympathetic nervous system begins to dominate, meaning you start to stay in fight or flight. That becomes your norm. And when we want to get into that state of rest and digest, that is much harder to access. So if you feel like you can't relax, you can't unwind, you feel like your heart is constantly pumping, it feels jittery, that's a sign that your cortisol is very, very high. And so some symptoms can also include headaches, jaw tension from clenching your jaws, from just all this stress and frustration, racing thoughts. Rest will feel unproductive or unsafe, and you may have more increase of emotional reactivity. This puts your body in a state of chasing, in a state of fighting, and the body cannot heal in this state. It simply cannot heal. It will just stay in the state of survival until we can get our bodies to deeply relax and move into a space of feeling good, so it knows that it's safe. So how does this feel inside of our bodies? We feel tired but wired, just like we started to in the first stage, but we really start to feel the thick of it in stage 2. We can't stop what we're doing. We can't settle. Maybe you focus on a big project that you've been working on for months, and then the project is done and you just feel like you're still in that mode. You can't turn it off. You can't relax, right? You try to do everything under the sun. Maybe you take a vacation. Maybe you take the day off. You try to have a self-care day. But in the meantime, you just feel like you should be working. You start to feel guilty when you are resting, or you start to carry exhaustion with a badge of pride. Like, oh yes, I'm so exhausted because I worked so hard. We're wearing that badge of exhaustion as if that is the goal. We can feel buzzed or tight, overly caffeinated. When you feel overly caffeinated, you feel so jittery, you feel on edge, you feel very anxious in those moments. You can deal with a lot of irritability and resentment towards others who seem like they're taking a slower pace, or maybe in your mind, they're representing laziness to you. It just angers you to see someone relaxed. You can also feel loss of joy and spontaneity in everyday life. And so you begin to run on stress. Stress becomes the norm. So if you've been running on stress, we can confuse this with some illusion of success, that great effort means success. I can tell you plenty of times how I've put in a lot of effort. I've worked really hard. I've been super stressed out, and yet I was not successful. As they say, work smarter, not harder. So let's talk a little bit more about why this triggers burnout. By the time you're in stage 2 of pushing yourself harder, this is going to deplete your body's reserves for rest, for repair, and for sensual pleasure. It starts to weaken your intuition. You stop listening and recognizing the early signs of burnout. It can lead into long-term hormonal dysregulation if you don't get out of this stage quick enough or recognize when you're getting off track. This will create bigger problems down the road. And we'll talk about a whole series just on PCOS and burnout, but when you get into this space, did you know that you have to have at least a year's worth of unreleased eggs to be diagnosed with PCOS? So you have to be in this state of chronic stress and burnout for at least a year. There's a problem here, right? There's absolutely a problem, that there needs to be more awareness and education on how we need to care for our bodies at home, not through medicine, but through our diet, through our lifestyle, and through how we manage our stress and how we move our bodies. This stage slowly dissolves your boundaries and rituals and the softness you carry for yourself. So working harder isn't working anymore. Right? I think we can establish that working harder doesn't actually work anymore. And if you think about it, when it comes to the era we're in, we used to be in the industrial era where labor and effort and working harder was a little bit more balanced. And now with being in the information age, everything that people consume is very quick. We can access information so much faster. And so if you're trying to keep up with that model, it's almost impossible to constantly give this output of information or content, or trying to take care of others in this space that we're in, because everything is so much faster now. And so we have to make time for rest, and recognizing that rest is not this indulgence, but it does help your body to heal and evolve itself. And through rest, you're able to slow down and really see the process of how you work. and what best serves you. Whether it's how you interact in your relationships, how you manage your home, how you manage your business or your work or school, whatever it is that you pour your energy towards, rest helps you recognize your boundaries. So let's talk a little bit about some ways that we can begin to shift ourselves out of this stage. And I want to focus on scheduling rest as productivity, truly prioritizing your sense of rest. So we're going to treat breaks like meetings. I want you to put those breaks on your calendar. They are non-negotiable. Block 30 minutes a day for just nothingness or pleasure or rest. 30 minutes. For me, I'll do that. I'll sit for hours and I'll do a lot of work and I say, okay, that's enough. I'm going to go lay down in my bed. I'm going to go play some games. Or I'm going to go outside. I'm going to soak up some sun. You have to break up that energy. And oftentimes it revives me, it recharges me, and it allows for me to jump back in and do what I need to do. And in turn, I end up being even more productive than I would be if I did not rest. You can also introduce soft work cycles. When you're in your luteal phase, you can start to shift into doing more admin types of work, something that doesn't require a lot of energy from you, things to keep everything afloat and smooth and easygoing for when you're in your more productive phases of your cycle. And don't worry, we'll do a full series on cycle syncing and your work and just being able to learn the best way to navigate things as a woman so that you get the best of both worlds and you don't feel burned out. We want to reduce that pushing energy in favor of intuitive rhythm. You can also set a 2-hour pleasure pulse timer. Every 2 hours, just take a pause to breathe, to hydrate, to stretch, to light a candle, to dance, to journal, or just to relax and sink into your body. So one of the things I also like to incorporate is the Toggle app. It's Toggl, and that's how I like to track my time. But they have the Pomodoro setting that you can put there, and so I'll set it for 30 minutes, and I'll work, and I'll do whatever I need to do for that 30 minutes. Once that 30 minutes is up, I take my 10-minute break. Maybe I'll go clean or straighten up, or maybe I just relax and I just breathe, or I'll nourish my body or I hydrate myself. And so I like to kind of do this process. And I've noticed every time I do this, my productivity is so much higher. I get way more done because I'm not burning myself out in the process. And so I want you to remember that your nervous system is so much more than your to-do list. And I want you to start to look at rest as a sacred strategy. Learning how to rest your mind, learning how to rest your body, not just sleep, but to put your mind, body, and spirit at ease. And so I want you to remember that you are not a machine. You are a woman, and you are never meant to work without pausing or pleasure or rhythm. In our next episode, we're going to dive in and talk about when we completely neglect our needs, what that looks like and what that feels like, and when your body keeps asking, but you completely ignore it. So I hope you're looking forward to that episode of Stage 3 of Burnout. And of course, if you're looking for a way to shift your body out of the state of burnout and into a state of pleasure, reigniting that energy you have within you to take care of yourself, to slow down, to rest, and to really understand what it means to step into sacred pleasure, then you can enjoy 30 days of pleasure rituals in the link down below, along with a private community where we can support each other with like-minded women. All right, well, thank yourself so much for showing up today, and thank you for tuning in to the She Sacral podcast.